Welcome back to Travolting Presents Easy Riders. Hosted by Jeff Sweeney and Stuart Elmore. Covering Mermaids. With special guest, Charlie Schumann. What up, what up, what up?
I love the new intro.
Hey, it's just me. It's Bob Hoskins. I'm from South Dakota.
Oh, no. Here he goes. Here he goes.
I'm just a normal guy from South Dakota.
Oh, no.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yes, that was very cool, what Jeff just did right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be at least 5 episodes, Jeff, where we have to make comments on the intro.
Just keep talking about
Because
it.
Edward Scissorhands, it was your dad, so he didn't know what we were doing prior to that. But we had Will and Angelica with us who got to experience that, and now we got to have you. And so I'm just very excited to show off my new toy, the mixer.
Yes.
Folks, we're going on week. Edward Scissorhands we did before Christmas.
Yes, we did.
So we're going on week 3 or 4 with this new mixer.
Yes.
This is 5th episode.
This is our 5th episode with the new mixer.
Yeah, and we're loving it. I am going to shout out Jason Mathis at Sweetwater. We're not sponsored by Sweetwater Sound, but
Yeah, so shut your mouth.
he
Dude, don't pay us.
was the one who he didn't really give me a great deal. He charged me a retail rate, but but he was great. So thank you, Jason.
Well, thank you, Jason.
Shout out, Jason.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show this week, Charlie Schumann.
What's up?
When's the last time you were with us? Was it Inkart?
Inkart,
Was it
I think?
right? Yes,
I think it
Inkart.
was Inkart. Ugh,
Yes.
not good.
Not good. We much better field this time.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I know, especially when we were, announcing our new subject, Winona, you were very excited.
I was super excited.
You were very excited. You were, I think, the first person that we booked for this series.
Wow, cool. I was very excited. I love Winona Ryder.
Yeah. So before we even start talking about the movie, I just want to know, what is your Winona history, and why did you like Winona so much? I'm just curious.
She's hot.
This is fair. This is correct
I don't know.
information.
I'm sorry. Well, I feel like she was kind of she was hot, but she was for the weirdos. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I remember watching Heathers as a preteen, and that was very if you were a weird girl in quotes for me. It was Heathers was the 80s movie that you watched and you were
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm dark
I
and
feel
edgy and
seen.
cool. I feel seen.
All these other losers watching The Breakfast Club,
Yeah,
and I got
exactly.
Heathers.
I was ugh, Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink. No, it's Heathers. And I had a little crush on her. And then, she still got it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's pretty much the reason I watch Stranger Things. I have to say, I don't really give a shit about those kids.
Fuck them kids.
But Winona Ryder.
Fucked up kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was very excited.
Yeah.
And was Mermaids your first pick, or was it kind of
Well, I wanted Little Women because I figured I'd stay on the train of book to movie adaptations.
yeah.
And I usually like to reread Little Women around Christmas time. And I was I'll just push my reread a little later and do a Little Women reread. So that was my first one. But then I wanted to, and I'd never seen Mermaids. And I really have wanted to see Mermaids because Winona Ryder, CHER.
Oh my God.
What more do you want in a movie? So I was
Christina Ricci, that young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And she's so good.
Yeah.
She's so funny.
Christina
I
Ricci-
fucking loved her.
I'm just saying, everyone should have known Christina Ricci was going to be
Yeah.
big child star. Look at this. This is her first movie. Mm-hmm. It's her first
She
movie.
fucking killed
And
it.
she had it.
Crushed
She
it.
right away.
Fucking crushed it. So that was a movie I've been wanting to watch. So I was okay, I'll do Little Women because I love Little Women. Well, I love the book and I have mixed feelings on the adaptation, but and then I was and I'll do Mermaids because it's a movie I want to watch. Yeah. Now I get to talk about it with you guys.
And
So.
this movie is also about some Little Women.
It's so true.
Very true. Yeah. I first time watcher of
Yes.
Mermaids. Had not read the book. Did not know this was a book to movie adaptation.
Oh no, I just meant about Little Women.
Oh right. Then this is all.
Was it a book?
Yeah. This also
Yes.
is a book to movie
By
adaptation.
Patty.
yeah.
So you're keeping the trend.
You're keeping the trend.
Okay,
You're
I'm gonna have to
keeping the
read the
trend.
book after now. I haven't read the book. Cool.
Yeah, and but
I'm excited.
I went in very blind, and so you can imagine my surprise when there's Not a lot of mermaids.
No.
Not
Yeah.
a lot of mermaids in
No.
this movie.
I'm a cop immediately that I also had the exact same thought as Stuart. I thought this movie was about mermaids. Like,
No.
I did no research before watching this
No
movie.
mermaids.
And I'm like, well, Cher, obviously, like, she's kind of a sea goddess by herself, so of course
Yes.
she would play a mermaid.
yeah,
And then
exactly.
And instead, I was not given the splash riff I thought this was going to be. I was
No.
given a very, like, heartwarming and wrenching domestic drama.
And like, at what point did you finally accept the fact that it was never going
About
to be
10
a
minutes
mermaid?
in when Winona's like talking like, God, I hope I don't have sexual feelings about this guy. I'm like, yeah, there's no mermaids coming into this at this point.
Imagine if there had been though after that. That would have been fun.
The first shot of like the swim meet, I was like, okay, maybe the leg's gonna turn into a tail.
Oh, yeah,
like,
I could
we'll
totally
see.
see that.
And then it didn't happen. I'm like, okay, maybe they're savoring it. And then it was like, I just want to have sex with this one boy. And it's like, whoa, okay, this is not about mermaids.
This is not a movie about
No.
mermaids.
Yeah.
Not in the traditional sense.
Because like, doesn't the poster even kind of give you the illusion of like even she's dressed as a mermaid and you're like, oh, it's like a family, but also doesn't kind of give like, it looks like the poster to Splash.
Yeah.
Where it's like she's a mermaid who has to blend into the real world and
Yeah, I can
deal
see
with
that.
Bob Hoskins and his funny kids.
I can see that. Yeah.
That's not the movie.
No.
That's
the movie.
decidedly
No, not at
not the
all.
movie.
Not at
So
all.
if you came here today hoping to listen to us talk about a mermaid movie, I
should have
will
look.
have you go back to Sinbad Beyond the Veil of Mist.
Where you can suffer in hell like we did.
Oh no.
This is a movie. This is the first
It's the
full
only
motion
one I
capture
could think
movie.
of, right?
It looks like a PlayStation 1 video game.
Okay.
And all the characters like move like this, and it's 90 minutes long, and I wanted to die by hour 5,
Wait,
by minute 5.
who was in this? What?
Brendan
Brendan
Fraser
Fraser.
did a
Brendan,
voice.
okay. Got it.
I will show you a clip from it later because
Okay.
it is so silly.
The king, who is played by Leonard Nimoy, will like walk around and be like,
He'll just T-pose through like a scene.
"My daughter was taken. I am so sad."
Oh no.
And that is that movie. That's the only mermaid one I could think of that we've actually talked about because that has mermaids in it. Maybe the actual Brad Pitt Sinbad has mermaids. One of the Sinbads has mermaids. Pretty sure this one has mermaids. Oh my god.
I found that.
Oh
This
my.
is a movie?
Yeah,
This
this is a movie.
movie. This is not a video
no.
game.
I was gonna say it's giving very
Video game
video
cutscene,
game
right?
and like not even a good video
It
game.
looks like a game you would like your little cousin would be playing on the iPad at the family function.
This is Lord of the Rings Gollum.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Instead, every game that your cousin plays on an iPad, and I mean your cousin is like the colloquial, like all of us, your cousin plays
Yeah.
on the iPad.
We
It's
all
always the
have
most demented shit you've ever seen. It's like some ragdoll like Shrek character like floating down a long like a long slide and like hitting other characters and flip flopping and explosions. It's always crazy.
Yeah.
I don't understand the kids these days. No, but we're not talking about the kids these days. We're talking about the kids those days.
Those days. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where we're at. So
This podcast is gonna go downhill so fast.
as we all know, I have been reading a Winona Ryder biography up to the points of the movies that we're covering. And so it's time for everyone's favorite section, the Jeff Context Corner, about where Winona.
Jumped the gun. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Jeff Context Corner, covering Winona Ryder's life to this point. So she films this movie after she just finished Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael and Great Balls of Fire, which we've talked about already. She actually films this before Edward Scissorhands, which came out before, and we've already released our episode on. But she films this before that movie. It's just like production cycles are weird. So this ends up being, made first and just not released until later.
When was this released?
This was
Like month.
It was
I don't know.
2 months after Edward Scissorhands. It wasn't. It was released December of
okay.
90, and Edward Scissorhands was like October. It was like a 2 month difference.
Well, that makes sense. This is not a Christmas movie, but like,
It's like family adjacent.
yeah. So I can imagine like they're like, we could release it in May or we could push it till Christmas.
It's a movie for like the 14 plus. I would say would like understand this movie fully.
Yeah.
I think a little younger than some of them might go over their heads, but feels like you bring your preteens and your teens to go see this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Bob Hoskins, just he brings in everybody,
Sneaking in there.
He's bringing in the masses.
Yeah.
But no, so she films this before Edward Scissorhands and basically has a really terrible time on this movie. Not like because of the production itself, but like she's basically been working nonstop for almost a year, like consecutive movies, and gets really sick during production of this and Edward Scissorhands.
Wait, can I ask a question?
This. Yeah.
How old is she?
She is
born in 1980, right?
Yeah, she's
No.
71.
71.
So
What am
she's
I
like
thinking?
19.
Okay.
18 or 19 when they make this.
Okay.
She's 18, 19, basically been working nonstop for a year.
Oh no.
Develops like severe insomnia and a lot of just like general failing health.
Oh no.
And so she doesn't really remember, like, I don't say she doesn't remember, but she doesn't look back on like the production of this as like a great time in her life. She says CHER was incredible and she had a great time with CHER. But the actual like making of the movie was kind of like she was in pain for a lot of the production.
Oh man.
And has to drop out of The Godfather 3 as a result after this movie before she goes to do Edward Scissorhands. Which shame for Godfather 3 because Sofia Coppola gets the role and we all know how that turned out.
Yeah.
Dad. And Godfather 3 for
Fair.
Yeah.
But no, so
Fair.
her process isn't great for this, but she's she does look back fondly on the role itself. It's like this is the last time she essentially plays like a rebellious teen archetype character. Because and next week we'll talk about Night on Earth, where she plays, kind of a coming of age adult or like young adult.
Yeah.
But this is the last movie where she plays this type of character. From like the Heathers, Beetlejuice, kind of through line of I am, 18. I'm playing a teenager in a movie that is catered towards my age demographic. After this, she takes a step back and is like, I don't want to play that character anymore. I think I've done all I can do with it. I only want to be in like adult movies that are, wide appeal instead of just focusing on like, playing a teenager. And it makes sense. People age. And so, and when you, reach a higher age, you don't want to get stuck in what you've, become good at and, develop a repetition of.
Well, and we see what it can do to people with the likes of like John Travolta, who
Never
in
escaped.
his 60s are still trying to play the cool suave 20s.
Yeah, he's trying to be the love interest in That's Amore.
Yeah, and it's
a
like
Little Italy.
I think, and maybe we'll talk about this next week. I don't know, but I think like just hearing about like Night on Earth and the different movies that she's going to be transitioning to, it takes a very adult, mature decision to do that. Like to ditch what's been working for you and to take a risk and do something that's wildly different.
And I'm sure something that gave her some confidence is coming out of this movie that, she is expected to carry some pretty heavy stuff late in the movie. And that's not to say that like her performances in Heathers and Beetlejuice are necessarily like lesser for it, but this is I think the first movie we've covered where she really has to carry the entire emotional crux of the ending on her shoulders.
Yep.
In like a deeply emotional way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I just really find this an interesting like crux point in her career. That I'm excited to delve into a little more.
Yeah.
As for the actual making of this movie had a somewhat troubled start. Because CHER was very attached to the movie. Like she was kind of the instigator of the process.
Wait. Who'd you say?
CHER. Oh. CHER. Oh.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
So CHER was the instigator of this movie.
Yeah, CHER was the instigator of this movie. I'm sorry, I'm getting into it.
Eventually, I'm gonna have to cut it off because of copyright.
Yeah, copyright infringement. We are towing the line.
Yeah. But we're talking about CHER, so it's fair use. YouTube.
Yes. So,
all right, I think that's
so
the, most
the
we can probably
producers
get away
that
with.
she's working with, the hire Lasse Hallström, who's a Swedish director, who I'm trying to remember because my brain is a sieve. He's directed movies like My Life as a Dog, Cider House Rules, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. So he's done a lot of movies in his career that are recognizable. He's hired to make this movie, but as soon as production starts, he immediately starts clashing with both CHER and Winona.
Oh, not good.
They don't like the way he's taking the movie.
Oh.
And by all counts, it seems like he wanted a much darker movie. Like he was angling for the biggest plot point that everyone was bumping on was that he wanted Charlotte to commit suicide at the end.
Oh.
That was the original pitch,
Wow. Okay.
rather than the ending that we do get. And both Cher and Winona had, a more optimistic take on the finale.
Horrible idea.
Yeah. They had a much more optimistic view of how this movie should go, about the family reconciling.
Yeah.
Instead of, being shattered at the end. Mm-hmm. And it really does, it just, it came to blows, and Lassie Hallstrom was fired by the producers. They brought in a second director, Frank Oz, otherwise known as the voice of Yoda and the performer of Yoda.
Okay.
Also half of the Muppets and half of Sesame Street, and also a good director in his own right, Bowfinger, and plenty of other movies. He's brought in, but they deem him too slow.
Oh,
so
wow.
he is also fired.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Damn.
So 2 directors get fired from this movie basically by like week 2 of production.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's when they finally bring
Is
in...
that normal?
No.
No.
That is
Okay.
very
I
abnormal.
didn't think so.
That's
Okay.
extremely abnormal.
Okay.
But they bring in Richard Benjamin, who brings the movie to the finish line. He's directed a decent amount of stuff. The Money Pit is probably his biggest. We have actually covered a movie he's done before, Mrs. Winterbourne.
Oh,
Do you remember Mrs. Winterbourne? Everyone's favorite.
I totally get
I actually have no memory of what happened in that movie.
Winterbourne vibes
Don't know
in a
what that
movie
is.
like this. This is better.
This
a
is
1,000 times
This is
better.
Mrs.
Got it.
Winterbourne.
But like I
Okay.
get the Hallmark vibes a little bit.
Who was in it?
Brendan Fraser. It's
Brendan,
like
okay.
he becomes he finds like his identical doppelganger who's killed in a train crash.
All right, that's
and he
enough. I don't need to hear
he pretends to
more.
be that person and marries into a wealthy family. Weird movie.
What is going on?
That's good, Stuart.
But it basically seems like Richard Benjamin really doesn't have much of an authorial stamp on this movie. Like, it's not like this is... I don't want to say like he did nothing, but it's not really his movie.
How can you be in the third director?
Yeah, and he's the third director brought in while they're actually shooting. He didn't do any of the prep.
Yeah.
So this is very much like, this is the CHER movie.
Yeah.
CHER is kind of the guiding force behind the movie. Any
Yeah.
decision is CHER's at the end of the day.
I love that. That also makes sense because that was the one thing that I was like, I can't believe a man directed this movie.
Yes.
Like that was crazy.
Exactly.
I
That
had
was,
similar
I
feelings.
was like,
Yes.
that was really weird to me when I saw that. So that makes
Yeah.
this all makes sense.
And
And we've
Richard-
seen the take Mermaids, but actually directed by a man, and we've seen versions of that.
Yeah.
And how that kind of materializes. This did not
Yeah.
feel like that.
No.
Benjamin is absolutely just a guy who was brought in to like line up the camera and do all the busy work of directing while CHER actually like shepherded the movie
Got
into
it.
what she envisioned it being.
Wow.
Love that.
Good for
So
Cher.
this is like truly a CHER movie.
Yeah. And you mentioned like Cher went on a bump with some directors, and then you mentioned prior that Winona fondly talks about her relationship with Cher. Is there
Yes.
any more like word or press or thoughts?
I mean,
about how
there was a lot
they
of
work
like
together?
tabloid stuff about like it's like kind of sexist tabloid stuff.
Yeah.
About like the bitches on the movie and like the Winona and Cher are just really making it a nightmare. They're being divas. And it's like I kind of feel like, stuff like that does happen in movies. But I kind of feel like if the third director does work fine with them and the two of them are both having the issue, I feel like there's maybe I don't know if we can pin it on them as the instigators here.
Yeah. Right.
And it's not to disrespect Leslie Hallstrom, who is like a good director, but he just has a different. His sensibility was not correct for this story.
That's a stupid idea about
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
ending.
that's so
Yeah.
that
We
would
talked
have
about-
been horrible.
We talked about this on Heathers, how the original ending was they were going to actually blow up the school. But and then there was going to be like this dance prom in heaven
Yeah.
or whatever, like a really comedically dark ending. But the altered ending is actually like what takes the thematic point
Yeah.
across the finish line.
It's like one of the. This is another one of those movies that, like, by circumstance and just movie magic becomes a special thing.
Yeah. It doesn't land the point if it ends with
No.
Charlotte
Yeah.
killing
Absolutely
herself.
not.
And then Cher's just like, I'm sad now.
If anything, like I can definitely see there being like it would be very, very dark, but I can see there a point being made of Christina Ricci's character actually died.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought you were gonna say. To
Yeah.
be honest,
And
Yeah.
like at least
Charlotte killing herself.
I still think
though.
that would be the wrong approach.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
I
agree.
agree.
I
I
agree.
agree.
But
I agree.
I can see if they had done that, I wouldn't have like hated the movie immediately.
But I don't think I would have loved it as
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like that the whole family gets to reconcile at the end in the way that they do, and we'll talk about it. I think is so special and spectacular.
Yeah.
And that's really what brings the movie together for me is the ending.
Takes it across the finish line.
Yeah, I agree.
Because otherwise, it is, while it has its moments, it could just have been like a kind of generic like family drama that ends with some tragedy and then they're all like kind of lost. But we've seen that movie before.
We have.
It's special that this movie rejects that notion and rejects like, what you'd expect to happen. And it's just like, no, we can have these three women just live together and be happy at the end of the movie without, and like there's a guy, but he's not living with them. And it's just the three of them and they just dance and they're happy together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the ending.
Yeah. The ending was so good.
Yeah. Very good.
Winona was cast because Cher thought she looked like a younger version of her. Final thing I really had to say. Sure. Becca showed me some drag queen who just says, sure. And it really did it for me.
Nice.
Last one. All right, so we must stop. We simply must stop.
You're right. I'm sorry.
We cannot get a copyright infringement.
We're not making money on this podcast.
This is true.
It's
We are
fine.
not. So do we want to delve right into the plot, or does anyone have anything to say about the lead up to this movie?
No, let's get into the
Let's
movie.
get
I
into
don't
the
have
movie.
anything else to say.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to tell you guys a curse thing about me.
Another one? Another thing?
Yeah.
So-
yeah.
yeah.
Hold on. Let me get out
This
the list.
This movie starts. And basically the first thing is like,
I saw this. Is this your Letterboxd review?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't.
And
I
like,
don't know what
lights come up and that says 1963 at the bottom. I'm like, oh, 1963. And then like the third or fourth shot of the movie, there's like a picture of JFK on the wall. And I immediately turned to my wife and I'm just like, Becca, I'm calling it right now. The assassination of JFK is going to be a major plot point in this movie. And she's like, why are you saying that? I'm like, it's at 1963. There's a picture of Kennedy on the wall. I bet that's exactly where this movie's going. And I would just like to say, fucking vindicated, folks. I beat the allegations.
You were correct.
Yeah, you were
Good
correct
job.
on that one.
Good
I
job,
knew that
Jeff.
was going to happen.
Yeah.
Good job, Jeff.
Can't believe they killed the president. My best Winona saying that impression.
You're getting better every day.
Every day.
Every day you're getting better at Winona impressions.
Every day we climb the mountain just a little more.
You were never quite able to land Brendan, but I have.
It's different. I can't do it.
Okay.
I can't quite do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, beginning of the movie, 1963, we are introduced immediately to Charlotte Flax, who's our lead character, played by Winona Ryder, and her little sister, Katie, played by Christina Ricci.
First movie.
Yes. And I like that the movie is immediately toying with your expectations because at the beginning she's referring to Mother Flax. Mm-hmm. And Winona's dressed up in very Catholic black dress.
Yeah.
The cross around her neck and the necklace.
Big boots.
And
Hair back in a
the
headband.
implication is basically immediately like, oh, she lives in like a convent or some kind of like boarding school run by the church. Mm-hmm. And she keeps talking about Mother Flax. And you're like, okay, Mother Flax is the religious leader of this place. And this movie's kind of about like religious liberation in this Catholic convent. No. Not the case. Cher opens the door. Charlotte, we're Jewish. And I like that the movie, like, it uses the trappings of that kind of like Catholic, like lockdown metaphor,
but flips it.
Yeah. And then, the young girl is the conservative one and the mom is the liberal one.
Yeah.
And that's a fun dynamic that the movie gets to play with as it goes on. And then they end up reversing roles. But I like that that's set up right at the beginning. She's like, my dad disappeared when I was a very young kid. Me and my mom and my younger sister have traveled the world or the country. We've lived in like 16 different homes for 16 different years. Every time my mom breaks up with a boyfriend, we just move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you can always tell the signs, she says, which involves her mom sleeping with her boss and then finding out that he's not bringing her on a vacation to like some island. She's like, you're bringing another woman? He's like, yeah, I'm bringing my wife. And then we cut to them in a car leaving Oklahoma and heading to Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Where they post up.
Yeah. And she just like spins a globe and points her finger and that's where they move.
I wish I was that free.
I wonder if she's ever accidentally like put it on like, I don't know, fucking like Djibouti
Yeah.
or whatever.
Kazakhstan. We got mermaids too, and they moved to Kazakhstan.
God.
Yeah.
Kiev, Ukraine during the invasion.
Oh my God. Anyway, so yeah, they get in a car and they're on the road trip to not Boston. It's a little town
right outside of Boston.
Seaside town right outside of Boston. Yeah.
Yes. And Charlotte is, deeply embarrassed by her mother. She finds like her kind of flamboyant lifestyle really unappealing and embarrassing to her. And she's gone very far into religion as like kind of her escape. That's kind of like her life as she reads books about the lives of the saints and reads the Bible and tells her mom that she's going to hell and is a sinner and keeps herself very chaste and locked down.
Yeah. I know you already addressed it, Jeff, but I think it's what I like already about this motif with it is kind of the idea of like whatever your parents are doing, like belief systems or whatever, like kids are naturally going to try to gravitate towards the opposite.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like if Cher was like the Catholic nun, then Winona would be the free living, which is again a movie we've seen plenty of times. So it's interesting that like she is in her rebellious stage.
Yes.
But her rebellious stage is being like strict Catholic.
Yes. Which is funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is really funny.
And Charlie, I saw your Letterboxd review and I really like how you phrased it.
Yeah.
That it's like you're always trying not to be your parents,
Yeah.
but it's just a reflection in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. You always want to.
Damn, that's good.
You
Wow.
always want to be the opposite of your parents, but when you look back, it's usually their reflection. It's usually them.
Yeah.
So I thought when that scene never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No,
but I'm
you
thinking,
can
okay,
move with it.
the scene when she runs away, when she like gets in the car and she like runs away. That's when I wrote that. I was like,
Yeah.
she's trying so hard not to be her mom, and here she is, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Running away.
here
being
she is
exactly
running away.
her
She's
mom.
being exactly her mom.
Because like your parents are usually in some way like an opposite reflection of who they were when they were younger.
Yeah.
Because as you grow older, you reflect on the mistakes of your past and you change. And so you trying to be the opposite of who your parents are now just means you're your parents when they were young. And it's just the never-ending cycle that continues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until someone breaks the cycle and we all escape to Mars or something. I don't know.
But that is how good this movie is.
Yeah.
That it's consciously making those
Yeah,
lines.
it's
drawing those
It's
lines.
very
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie has no business being as smart as it is.
No, it really doesn't. I did not know it was going to be this smart. I thought it was just going to be fun.
Yeah.
The town they moved to is Eastport, Massachusetts.
Eastport, Massachusetts.
Yes.
Not the name of a Stephen King town in Maine.
No, it is next to Jerusalem's lot, which is where the Stephen King business is at.
Right,
There's just,
exactly.
Anytime they go to the border, there's just zombies and shit running around. They're like, all right, well, kids, roll them up, roll up your windows. We got to drive through.
But they get there and they're unpacking. And I think right away we're introduced to Joe.
Yes.
Played by...
Oh, fucking Joe.
Joe.
Michael...
More like Jamoke.
Yeah, literally.
Michael... I'm going to say his
More
name
like
wrong.
Joke.
Scheffling?
I don't know.
I don't know
I
either.
didn't recognize him.
He's basically a James Marsden discount.
Totally.
No, he looks like Matt Dillon.
I actually thought he was Matt Dillon. When they
Yeah.
first pulled up in the car, because they like pull up in the car and he's just like basically standing there. I thought it was Matt Dillon for a second.
I was convinced.
and
I'm
then
like, oh, this is the Matt Dillon movie.
I totally thought it was Matt Dillon, and then I was like, oh, that is not Matt Dillon. Yeah, he does look like Matt Dillon.
Come on.
Yeah.
It looks like that with just
Yeah.
a few less wrinkles.
Yeah.
A little younger.
Yeah. Right away, so Cher sees Joe, and there's a little bit of teasing of like, is Mrs. Flax already finding her next little toy in the town? But then we get the Ugu Aga from Winona, where she sees Joe, and it's like, Lord, give me strength.
Yeah, I think the best thing about this movie is we talked on this show before about, unnecessary narration and how a lot of movies will have, just narration for narration's sake. This, to me, is like the correct usage of narration.
It's toeing the line
because
sometimes.
it's only directly inside Winona's head at the moment in time. It's never like Winona being like, yeah, so a few days ago, it's like she's looking at a guy and she can't be like, oh my God, I want to like have him inside of me. So we just like, it's just Winona staring, and then you just hear, oh my God, I want him inside of me. And that's a great use of comic timing of narration.
Yeah.
It's not like explaining things that we could get visually. It's giving us extra on top of what the visual storytelling is doing.
Yeah.
I love to be inside a teenage girl's head.
Yes.
So I enjoyed it.
There's like so many, like anytime she's out with Joe, like that scene when none of those scenes would be nearly as funny without the narration.
Sure.
Because it would just be her walking around like, "Ugh," looking terrified of this man. Instead of getting to hear inside of her head, and she's like, the rippling biceps. Jesus, did you have rippling biceps? I hope you did.
Yeah. Yeah, narration for me is always like 80% no. I might even say 85% no, 15% yes. On just in general broad spectrum of like when to put voiceover or no voiceover. Generally, I'm usually against it.
You have to either be Martin Scorsese or this movie usually to get away with it.
Yeah. I think this movie did. There were some moments where I was like, I don't know if I needed that, but there are few of them, very few of them.
But Charlotte quickly learns her favorite fact about this house is that it is bordering a convent.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Which I'm not 100% sure how this geography works out, but we're just going to go with it because it is just like the house and they walk like around the corner and there's just like a hill with a convent on top of it.
Yeah, it gives off the vibe that it's like in their backyard, but their backyard is massive.
Yes.
Because the convent grounds are pretty big. There's like a river that runs through it, and they got lots of buildings, lots of little outhouses.
They have a bell tower.
Yeah. And they live right next to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Charlotte's ecstatic because she can go up there and check out the nuns. And be like,
does she ever actually talk to any of the nuns?
No.
Well,
She tries to in the shoe store.
yeah.
I think you might have read the same thing I read. There is one scene that got cut from the movie where she does go to talk to one of the main sisters. And it was supposed to be, evidently, I guess this is an IMDb trivia thing, so take it for what it's worth. But the story is like she goes to one of the main sisters for advice, and it was this really heart-wrenching, emotional scene. The actress who plays the main sister, last name is Minor.
Jan Minor.
Jan Minor, and Mother Superior. It was her last movie before she passed away, I'm pretty sure. And gave this amazing performance that it said, and then it got cut from the movie. And that's when Richard Benjamin just sent her a copy of the scene just because it felt so bad cutting it. So yeah, that's like the only thing that was like talked about. And then in the movie that we actually watched, like, yeah, there's scenes of her and Cher when they're like buying shoes, like they're together.
Like, run into the nuns.
Yeah, they run into them a few
definitely sees
times.
the nuns. And there's one scene I really liked when she's just like watching the nuns like outside. They were like playing something. They were like playing a game or something. They're just like outside, like laughing, having fun, and she's like watching them, which I really liked that scene. But
I like that she never works up the courage to talk to them because it kind of fits into her whole arc in the movie of like she thinks this is what she just keeps thinking that these are the things that she wants, but those aren't the things that she wants.
Yeah, right.
And so she's like, oh my God, these nuns are incredible, but I can't talk to them because I don't have this level of commitment to it. And it's just always scared by what talking to these nuns could bring. Instead of just where she's at now, which is a safe observer where she doesn't have to commit to anything.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's the way she is with most of her choices in this movie. She chooses to be the observer instead of like proactive into it. It's like, I'm going to look at this guy instead of making a move on him. I'm going to look at these nuns instead of talking to them. I'm going to look at people in school instead of conversing with them. And so I think that's, once again, going back into the idea that this is a very smart movie. It doesn't lay it on too thick, and it just, lets things simmer for a while.
How do we feel about the fact that she's playing 15? Joe, it's established that Joe's 26.
That's gross.
Yes.
And the movie doesn't seem to, at least maybe I'm missing something, but from my standpoint, the movie doesn't seem to call upon any question of how wrong that is.
It's 1963.
Yeah, this movie doesn't. I don't think you missed anything.
Well, it's like even from like a movie made in the 90s should have called out that it was bad in 1963, but it almost doesn't even do that.
It's like it's 1963. This is just what we did.
Okay. Because in my mind,
I'm not saying that's right.
Right, and I
know that.
From the writing, it sounds like to me it's like this guy is in the middle between Charlotte and Mrs. Flax, which means he could go to either or. Is how the movie's sort of framing it. Of like,
but in reality, that's not.
In reality, no,
that's not how it works.
Right.
No.
So that that was a little bit of a bump.
Yeah.
But yeah, so pretty much like they moved in, and then I don't know.
Yeah, we just kind of get a bit going around town. Eventually, they go to the shoe store, which is where they meet Lou. And I want to talk about Lou.
Oh, okay. Here
gotta
we
Played
talk
go.
about
by
Lou.
Bob Hoskins.
Here we go.
Played by Bob Hoskins.
Let's.
Oh, before we talk about that, can we? Oh, you had some. Do your little button.
Nope, you're
Oh,
good.
I was just gonna say. While we're talking about the shoe store scene, I would like to talk about her shoes.
Yes, go in,
The boots?
Let's do the shoe
The
corner.
boots, yeah.
Sir, can you play the theme for the shoe corner?
There's a shoe corner.
I don't have.
Oh,
like,
wait. It's called Shoes with Schumann. That's what we're calling this section. Is the
Shoes with Schumann.
Know that when you're back for Little Women, I will be asking you about shoes for Schumann.
That's so good.
Oh, I wish I had paid better attention to Cher's shoes. I'm sure she had some good shoes. I wasn't really looking.
Yeah. But yeah, her big boots.
Her big boots from her dad,
Yes.
right? They're from her
They're the one thing she has from her dad.
and they were, man, were they ugly. They are so bad. I was like, get some new shoes, your little sister. Katie's getting such cute shoes. Those little red.
He's like, I want a red stripe.
They were so cute.
Katie is Christina Ricci in this movie.
She killed it.
She's incredible.
She's so fucking good.
But also, she is tiny with bangs and kind of a bop cut. Was born in Minneapolis and looks exactly like my wife looked at that
no,
age. She
it's,
looks exactly like
giving Becca.
They look.
She looks like what?
No, like she looks exactly the same as Becca looked at that age, and it's really unsettling. That really just got me, and it got her too, because we were watching, because you're like, this child is me, and then later in the movie, they're just like, yeah, when you were born in Minneapolis. She's like, fuck.
Oh my god.
Hey, Stuart.
Why?
Hey, Stuart.
What is this? What value does that give you? What value did you get out of that? How does Bill Clinton fit into this?
Talking about. No, I won't say it. Never mind.
What else, did you want to say anything else about the shoes?
No, I
Or
just wanted to
commenting on
I
the
just wanted to
boots?
make sure that we
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge the shoes.
the shoes. I have more to say about the shoes later when she,
Good.
but not right now.
Well,
You can
shoes
talk
with
about your
Schumann
guy.
will return.
Yeah, talk about your guy.
Okay, so
or Bob
Hoskins
Bob
playing
Hoskins.
Lou Lansky, who's like the shoe owner in town. And he is
Shoe owner in town, that makes it sound like he owns everybody's shoes.
he does. He's the only shoe store in the 60s. He probably does own everyone's shoes in town. So the thing about Bob Hoskins is that he's British
Wait, what?
What?
with an extremely Cockney accent.
I don't know.
He
this-
talks like this.
I was actually serious. I don't know this
Hold
man.
on a
What else has
second.
he been in?
He's in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's the main guy in that.
He's not British in that, is he?
He is not.
Okay, I was
He's
like-
he plays Mr. Smee in Hook.
Okay.
He's been in just so many movies.
This film.
I'm pulling up a Conan O'Brien
looks pretty
interview
intense.
because I got in
This
it.
film is you take
It's in Nottingham, around the project housing,
right.
which has got the highest crime rate in Europe.
He's got the highest crime
there's-
rate
I
in
think
Europe.
There's more murders per month.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's what Bob
it's
Hoskins sounds
such a strong. You get that,
Wow.
and then you get Bob. I'm just gonna look up Bob Hoskins Mermaids.
I'm really surprised, I have to say. I have no idea.
What's funny?
You're a sexy guy.
You have to look surprised when you say that.
I am surprised.
Like you can kind of hear it.
Sometimes age has its compensation.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
I guess. I didn't know.
That is crazy because I only know him from this movie now and Hook, where
Yeah.
he's Mr. Shmee.
Yeah.
Yes, and he has a British accent in that.
He does.
Yeah, because he's Mr. Smee. You think Mr. Smee? She's talking like this. You know.
I don't know. I like when I think like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is, I think
Yeah.
the one that I would
Well,
have known. I didn't recognize.
Who
him,
Framed
but-
Roger Rabbit's probably like his biggest. I think what people will know him from. He unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
Oh,
But I think that's what people know him as.
Okay.
And it's funny because like of movies like this and that, where he just kind of develops himself as like this kind of rough and tumble with a like Chicago or New York accent character.
Yeah.
And so in this movie, that's the accent he's kind of developed, and that's the one he deploys. And so it begins like, hey, you know, I'm just from South Dakota. How you doing? And you're like, wait a second, buddy. Wait one fucking second. You are not from South Dakota. You live in Boston right now, and you talk like you're from the Bronx.
So interesting.
Sir, can you play the link I just sent you? This is Bob Hoskins talking about being cast in the Mario movie.
I didn't even know it was a game. It was my kids that told me. Well, I said, what's your next film? I'm doing Super Mario Brothers. Oh, that's the game. Oh, what? Yeah, here. And this is you. And I saw this thing jumping up and down. I thought, I used to play King Lear.
Oh my god.
Super Mario, where he's like, "Hey, it's a me, Mario." Huh?
That's so good. That's so good.
But no, he's not Italian. He's not from New York. He is from Britain.
Wow.
In Super Mario?
Okay.
Yes, and he plays Super Mario.
Crazy.
Wow.
Getting back on the track that I have steered us so far off right now.
Yeah.
So Bob Hoskins, who is from South Dakota, but now runs a shoe store in Massachusetts somehow, in spite of his Bronx origins, just immediately kind of latches on to CHER. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
let's be honest.
Can't blame a guy. Come on.
Yeah, and Becca was a little confused. Like, she's like, what does he have? And I was like, are you telling me there's not raw sexual energy emanating off Bob Hoskins right now?
He has
'Cause
all
like-
the shoes in town.
Yeah, I'm
What
like,
do you mean, what does he have?
he's got all the shoes in town. He's got like a body.
That is true.
All
He's
I'm
got
saying-
one of those.
All I'm saying is that when Bob Hoskins goes out to hunt, he brings back game. And I think
Okay.
so.
That was good. I give you that one.
And so he starts moving in on the property. Starts making bids.
Moving in on the property.
Oh dear. Okay.
He starts making bids on the lot.
What?
I don't even know what sound effect
Okay.
for that anymore.
But simultaneous, Winona starts school.
Yeah.
And immediately is very terrified of like her new school system where the kids are a little more free and liberal than she's used to. She's hiding in the bathroom stall when her guidance counselor finds her and like pulls her out and brings her to class and asks everyone to treat her nicely. We never really do that much at the school.
No,
But this
really
is
don't.
kind of the extent of it. We see a little bit throughout, like just random scenes of her in classrooms, but never really does like you would expect the school to have a bigger part because of like Winona's history to this point in movies and just what this movie's about. But that's kind of the extent of it. It's just we get the vibe that she's an outcast at school, and then we really don't check back in. What happens immediately after that? Like what is kind of the sequence of events here?
Is that when Joe is the bus driver?
Yes.
Is it that first day where when he drops her off, because she's like I think she's the first stop in the morning and then the last stop,
Yeah.
right? So when they go home, so I think is it that first day
You're
that
right.
she is like
Sits in the back, right?
yeah, and she's like, I like fishing.
Oh, right. Because
Right.
they pick up a conversation.
Oh, and she finds out that he used to live in the house.
Yes. And that she's
she
actually
lives in.
sleeping in his old room.
Yes, go Red Sox.
Go Red Sox. And then that's where it is fishing, I'm pretty sure, because there's like a quick scene of them. I'm losing that memory though. When they spend their first outing together.
Yeah, because I remember now. So she sets up a date with Joe at the exact same time that CHER sets up a date with Bob Hoskins.
Oh, I have a
Yeah.
plot question.
Yes.
Okay, because I feel like I went up and got a drink of water and I didn't understand this. The thing about the parent-teacher conference, did he
Yeah.
just go to the school even though he doesn't have a child there? Like, what was happening?
I
Because she
think
was like, sorry,
That's so true.
he does say, "I'll see you there."
yeah, because he goes, oh, you're going to, when they're at the shoe store to go back. They're at the shoe store. And he's like, oh, you going to the parent-teacher conference tonight? And apparently she's never been to a parent night or whatever
Yeah.
at the school, some open house. And apparently she doesn't ever go because Winona makes a comment like,
Yeah.
this is the first time you've ever been to one. She's like, I care about your education. And Winona's like, okay, you haven't for 15 years. I'm almost done, so whatever. But he's like, am I going to see you there? And she's like, oh, yeah. And she goes. But then he doesn't have any kids in the school.
It says hunting ground.
He's like there.
Well, he has to check in on all the shoes.
Yeah, so I'm like, wait, why
He's
is
gotta
he
be like,
here?
all right, who needs their shoes then?
Because I thought like he was going to be a single parent too, but then
That's not the case.
no, that's not the
weirdly.
case. So why was he at parent teacher night or open house? Or whatever?
Because he's putting down bids.
He's putting down
Yeah,
bids.
he's
Okay.
putting down bids. He's checking out the menu.
All right. I was just making sure I didn't miss something because I was like very confused about that. But
I know what my next sound bit I'm putting on the board
What?
is. looks like meat's back on our menu, boys. I'm just, I
Just
feel
for
like
whenever I talk about Bob Hoskins.
no,
Dude, that's not going to happen.
whenever
again.
you
We
talk
don't
about,
it
whenever you talk
again.
about meat and whenever you talk about menus, I press that button.
Bob Hoskins. I mean, you know what they say about Bob Hoskins in this movie? Just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you can't look at the menu.
Excellent timing. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great.
Okay, so they set up dates
Yes.
at the same time.
Yes. And so Winona goes out with Joe and they go to the lake. And he fishes.
And she watches.
Yeah, and she's like, she keeps expecting him to make a move on her. Because like she thinks she's about to pull her into the boat and like, you know, one-way ticket to Pound Town. But instead she's just like he hands her some like tackle and like a fishing rod. Which is really fun. She's like, is that all it's getting in the boat? In their little narration. This sequence, I am blanking on some of what she says, but this is when I remember the narration being the funniest.
And is this also the scene where afterwards it's the first of 3 times they go to the bell tower?
Yeah, after this.
It's the first time where they just look at it.
Yeah.
And they go up and they see it.
Because I remember at some point he grabs her to put her in the boat and she goes, oh.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
That was really good.
It's really funny. Winona's just having incredible comedic timing for this first half of this movie before things get more serious.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
But they go out on a date. Meanwhile, Bob Hoskins and Cher.
What was their date?
They just meet up at the house.
Yeah, she has the
Oh,
little
and-
bagels.
Yeah. And
they
he's
just
like,
fuck.
I'll bring the bagels.
And she
and
like
he-
cuts them up tiny.
Yeah, and he brings the bagels, which I guess is just because he's like, they're Jewish, they like bagels. I guess that's his move.
Sure.
I don't have I'm not going to play a sound effect.
No, I think that's literally what his idea is in the movie. It's not me just like saying that. And so he brings bagels, and earlier through a bit, Winona had established that the only thing Cher knows how to cook are like hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
Okay, which I
Oh,
want
we
to talk
missed
about
that.
this.
Yeah.
Because do you guys know about girl dinner?
Yes.
Girl dinner. Yeah.
Cher, that's girl dinner.
Yeah.
That is
That's
girl
literally
dinner.
girl dinner. I was like, wow, Cher and Mermaids originated girl dinner.
Yep, that's right. Because there's like s'mores and like grapes.
There's
and,
one
like,
where it's like a grape, a cracker, a bit of cheese, and a marshmallow just on a
dinner.
stick.
Girl
It's
dinner.
great.
Girl
Girl
dinner.
They're like, do you think mom will make a main course today? Nope.
And her like what she makes with the bagels essentially is like the bagel cut into 4s with like some cheese and some spread in the middle and then
Oh.
like stuck on a stick.
Wait, but we also
It's like
forgot,
a bagel like
because Winona was making sandwiches for her fishing date with Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And she cuts them up into stars
yeah, and
of
Cher
David.
cuts them up into stars.
And she's like, I wanted to give him a man. Winona's like, I want to give him a man,
Man
sandwich.
Something a man can sink his teeth into.
yes.
She's like, it's not the only thing I wanted to sink his teeth into. Am I right, folks?
Oh, yeah, and then Cher comes with her cute little star.
Yeah.
Cookie cutters. And it's like, doot, doot.
You
And,
get
and she says, "Don't do anything I wouldn't. Don't do anything I wouldn't do." And then Winona leaves like, "Or don't do anything I would do."
Yes.
I like the vibe that Cher is not a bad mom. She's just a kind of an unprepared mom. She just wasn't really ready for it and wants her kids to like her and wants her kids to be happy, but doesn't quite know how to maneuver that.
Yeah.
Well, especially when it's like, as we were talking about in the beginning, whatever your parent is like, a lot of children are going to want to be the opposite, I think, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to mothers and daughters. And so, you know, Cher is this kind of free, rebellious spirit.
Yeah.
And so I think it must be really weird then to have this daughter who's like super conservative. And it's
Yeah.
like, how do I navigate that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to let her like be who she wants to be, but also like, what are you doing?
Because Cher establishes that she ran away from home when she was very young because her parents are very conservative. And so it's like now she's just raising her mom.
Yeah. It's like, what the fuck?
And that's just the way cycles, continue and
Yes.
perpetuate.
Yes.
Yeah. Go to therapy.
But
folks.
she just doesn't really.
Yes.
Go to therapy, please.
Begging you.
Talking to you, boomers, who we have a huge audience.
But no, she so their 2 dates respectively break off. We already talked about Winona's half. But Cher, makes her little finger sandwiches, and Bob Hound's like, I've never seen a bagel like this before. And she's like, do you like it? He's like, I'll be honest, I really don't.
That's what I like about their relationship, though, is that Lou is honest.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's always honest, and he's always authentic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that is...
He's always 100%
Yeah.
authentic Lou.
straight
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
Straight as an arrow.
I'll stick it to you straight.
Yeah.
Both times.
Which I think is maybe like probably his attractive factor.
I'll stick it to you straight in conversation. I'll stick it to you straight in bed.
Oh my god. Well, yeah, they have a conversation. Like one of their first conversations after they have sex is her talking about how men always lie.
Yeah.
Right. That's like one of the first things, first conversations that she has with him. So I think yes,
And
part
he's
of
like,
him
I'll always be
being-
honest with you.
Yeah, and I think that is very much a part of why he's attractive to her.
Yeah.
I think they're both very authentic, very much both themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes
That clashes,
that's
but-
exactly what you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is you don't always need like Mr. Goodbar. You need Mr. Honest.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart, that was a reference to our motion picture Perfect that we covered on the show. Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Yeah,
He fucking hates me. Can you believe this shit? Like,
I get it a little bit.
you get it a little
I
bit.
get it a little bit.
This is great. This is going so well.
It's going great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah.
So their dates go off well, and they agree to both see each other again. Do we basically get to the JFK assassination? Is that basically?
Like
what
there's
happens?
stuff we're missing, but I don't know.
I'm sure there's we'd say this a
think it's a lot
lot.
of
There's a
business.
lot of business, but I think the major next big thing is the JFK thing.
It's just a lot of like Lou and Cher go on multiple more dates, as do Joe and Charlotte.
Yeah.
And they go on several more dates, and then there's the business with Katie's swimming competition, where she comes in second place and gets a silver medal. And then we get, they're all sitting in class watching some movie. And a teacher comes in, and I just turned back, and I'm like,
Were you so proud of yourself?
I'm like, he's fucking dead. They just
dead.
popped his ass in Dallas. I don't mean to be so callous, but
He's been dead
Yeah.
for a long time,
Yeah.
Jeff. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay.
I saw a picture of a in the square in Dallas where JFK was shot. They have some like banners on the wall for the museum that's there.
Okay.
And they just say like JFK was here. And it's like weird to have signage where it's just like, yo, JFK got lit up here. Like, come to the museum.
I feel that's inappropriate. But
So that's probably not the best move.
no.
But yeah, JFK gets shot twice.
He does.
He's dead.
He is
And
deceased.
as much fun as like I had like being right about this, I don't really know how much this adds to the movie.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah.
She has that. What is she? She's like all the grown-ups are gone or something.
All the grown-ups are so absent. Everyone's crying. Who would do such an evil thing?
Yeah.
And then the next scene is like we're back to the plot.
Yeah. When
Like-
does she leave? What makes her run away?
She runs away after because she thinks she's pregnant.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's when she runs away.
Okay.
Before
Okay.
realizing that she's in fact a virgin.
Right. Okay.
She
When
thinks she has
kisses
immaculate conception.
Okay. And this is all after the assassination?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's weird because like a lot of movies set in the 60s use the JFK assassination as like a major plot point. I mean, you would. It was a big moment in U.S. history. But this one just really doesn't do anything with it outside of just like he died and everyone's sad for a few minutes and then we're right back to normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the only thing, but I don't really think you needed it or it added too much, was this like, I think because doesn't she, then she starts thinking about her father, doesn't
Yeah.
she? She's like, I think this was like her whole thing was like, I think she literally is like, all the grown-ups are gone. She says something like that. Like,
Yeah.
and she's like, her mom, I think to her is like, doesn't feel like a quote unquote real adult. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I guess maybe JFK is this like symbolic adult, like real adult figure in her life. And she's like, he's gone. My dad's not actually ever coming back. But like, did you really need that
Yeah.
to get there?
I don't
think
so.
so. I don't think so.
I think it
That's
just kind of
how they were trying to tie it in, but I don't think it.
It
Or
just
if that
muddies
was
the
point-
waters a
If
bit.
that was the point they were trying to make, they should have maybe established that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that if JFK being her like faux father.
Yeah.
We talked about this theme on the show before of like kids growing up without parents who identify
With the president of the United States, yes.
specifically the president.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, because like what was the movie we talked about where we drew the similar parallel? It was I'm trying to think about it, but
Hi, Stuart.
no, it wasn't Bill Clinton. It was definitely, I don't remember, but I remember, I know that we have, because the reference I made to it was How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
Because it was Neil Patrick Harris's character who thought Bob Barker was his real dad.
Oh yeah.
And then it flips that whole thing of being like, no, he's not your dad. Your dad is a lame-o suburban guy.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that if Mermaids was trying to make that be part of the point,
they didn't do it.
Didn't really stick with it or
because
devote time to
I
it.
feel like the point is really just the one shot of her walking downtown. She's like, all the grown-ups are absent, and like all these adults are walking around sad, but there's some kids playing in the yard.
Yeah.
Because they're just oblivious to the evil of the world.
Yeah.
Which is like a fun point. It's a fine point. But if you cut that scene out, the movie progresses exactly the same.
Yeah,
and I don't
it's not
gain
necessary.
anything.
No, I agree.
Like, including a presidential assassination is a big thing to say in a movie without it just being background noise. If it's just background noise, fine. Yeah, you can get away with that. Just like they're like, yeah, the president got shot. And they're like, oh, that sucks. Like, you can do that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
If you want to set your thing in 1963.
No, but they made it like a thing.
Yeah, they
but
made
then
it
they
such
didn't
a
really
big deal.
follow through with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, they don't even mention him again after that sequence. It's not like they're like, yeah, Johnson, right? It's crazy. You know, Miss JFK. They never mention him again.
Yeah.
So that if I have one grumble with this movie, it's just that like, just cut that business out. The movie would be better for it.
Yeah.
That's me telling them to cut a presidential plotline out of a movie. I said this.
That's real serious.
But I actually do remember that she does find Joe deeply upset by the death of JFK. And that's when she kisses him.
Right.
Oh,
that
is that
is
their-
what
is that
draws
their
them
first
to
smooch?
kiss for the first time.
Yeah.
That is so
But like,
true.
do you really need that to be the thing that draws them to kiss?
Could be anything.
Could Joe just like be upset about something else instead of having to make a big deal for 5 minutes of your movie about JFK? I think so, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
You could just like be like, yeah, because earlier he'd established like his mom died when he was young. You could just be upset about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's consoling him, and then he kisses her.
She kisses him.
Does she kiss him?
I feel like it's more on her part to kiss him.
They start making out. At one point, she goes for the neck. I remember that.
Okay.
Because she immediately like draws back and feels bad about it, and then just starts kissing him on the lips. But she's immediately filled with sin and runs away.
Because she sees all the statues of the angels and
Yeah.
shit
Pretty
around.
Are
crazy
they in?
scene.
Are they in the
The bell tower.
bell tower.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
her second bell
that's
tower
second
meet.
bell tower? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's all like the bell, like the angels and saints, and they're all looking
All
at
the
her.
gargoyles.
It's a fun sequence of editing because like you're just looking at
Yeah,
her
I really
making
enjoyed
out with him, and
that.
like her eyes are going wide. There's all this Catholic guilt just surrounding her.
yeah.
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 Yeah, it's good.
Right.
That's the fun stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
And so she runs home and goes into a fast to purge her sinful thoughts. She passes out in the hallway because of malnutrition because she's fasting so hard for Jesus.
And then this is when she starts to think that she's
Yes.
pregnant.
Yeah, she thinks she's pregnant.
She basically has, the movie never says it, but she basically has like a full mental episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
She becomes convinced she's pregnant by immaculate conception as a punishment. And so rather than confront, and she doesn't want to confront her mom about it, and she doesn't want the town to call her like a tramp for being pregnant at 15. So she steals her mom's car and runs away.
Well, first she does.
the gynecologist.
She does go to get tested. So does she run away?
No, because she gets tested after because they tell
Okay.
her like you have to have had sex to be pregnant, and that kind of ends that whole.
Got it. So she runs. That's okay. Okay. I okay. Yes.
Yeah.
It
I
is
trust you.
before?
Yeah,
I
because
thought she went before and then she runs away.
no, because she still thinks she's pregnant when she runs away.
Okay.
It's after she comes back that she goes to the gynecologist, and they're like, "Yeah, you're fine."
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, you're right. It is like a manic episode.
Yeah,
Oh,
without saying it. Because she drives off and she finds this family
yeah,
that she kind of more or less just like
yeah.
gets in with.
Yeah, they're credited in the end credits as perfect family. It's like perfect mom, perfect dad, perfect son, perfect daughter.
Yeah.
And so it's like she drives the car until it runs out of gas, and then just stumbles into the house and is like, "Hey, can you help me with my car?" And she seems very unwell mentally.
Yeah.
And she just tells them this fake story she's concocted about her life.
Yeah.
Because she's so distraught of her current life that she's just basically rambling a story that her name is Val, with her older brother Al, and her
Val
family
Cal.
likes to rhyme every night. Val Cal.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
she
Sal
built her
Val.
own
Sal
perfect,
Val,
her own
yes.
perfect family
Yes.
to fit in with this perfect family.
Meanwhile, smart, perfect dad goes out and finds the registration of the car and calls Sharon and is like, "Hey, come get your kid."
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bob Hoskins, Lou, is the one who
Lou
comes
goes
out.
and gets her.
Yeah.
But before we get there, though, because there's a great scene with Bob and Cher beforehand, because she is like, Cher is like freaking out about it. Like, oh my God, like she could have been kidnapped. She could have been killed. Like, what's going on with her? And then Bob's the one to say, it's like, well, like maybe if you just like talk to her instead of like putting her down a lot, like have you ever considered maybe she's doing the thing that you do? Like Bob's the one speaking the truth here. And that gets them into like a big argument. Did we miss the scene where they have a confrontation about Bob getting close to the kids?
It's later.
I think that's later.
Okay.
But that is
Okay.
good. And there's some good scenes that we don't have to get into detail, but of him like getting close to the kids. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that happens later, but
That-
like when they decorate the bedroom, when she
The
that
bottom
definitely
of the ocean
happens
scene?
after the runaway. 'Cause I was
Yeah,
surprised about
yeah.
how early in the movie she runs away.
Okay.
It's like the halfway point.
I think
where
that's
she
why
runs
me
away.
and Stuart are getting confused because it feels weird that it was so early. But I guess it was.
It is, yeah. Yeah, I think so many things happened before the runaway. I thought the runaway was third act.
Because this movie's like an hour and 45 minutes. She runs away like 50 minutes in.
Wow. Yeah.
And then there's still the entire second half of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot happens.
Bob's the one to go get her.
Bob goes and gets her.
But this runaway is really where the tonal shift of the movie occurs.
Yes.
Because for the first half, I'd say this is more or less like kind of a lighter comedy.
Lighthearted, yeah.
This is when the movie shifts fully into like high drama
Yeah.
and family, like intense family confrontation.
Yeah.
Because it starts revealing, the thematics that the movie's playing with a little more. It's not just about, the funny differences between a mother and a daughter. It's about like, how does a mother and a daughter reconcile when they're so far apart? How does, generational trauma affect the way that we view our kids and simultaneously the way our kids view our parents? When your kids start acting out, do you become your parents? Do they become you? And this is the fun stuff that the movie is really interested in playing with. And that's why, after she runs away, I love the second half of this movie so much.
Yeah, you really get into that. Like,
Very quickly after.
Yes.
well, they start like that. When she comes back, they have that confrontation about her running away, and Cher's so mad, and Winona kind of calls her out and is like, "Well, what do you do when anytime you're fucking upset, we fucking pack up our whole lives and we leave, you know?" And so and she's like, "Well, I'm an adult. I get to make those decisions for us."
And I love the beginning of the thread here where Cher is like, I can't talk to you. I'm too mad. Like, I cannot. And this is something that I can empathize with. I'm sure almost every kid can empathize with when you do something wrong and your parents are so upset with you. And rather than like have a sit down, mature conversation, it's like, I'm just so mad I can't have a conversation with you right now.
Yeah, totally.
And you're just left feeling like, oh God, I really messed up.
It never turns into a constructive conversations, either yelling or like just non-contact, which of course is just a source of simmering.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't put away that guilt. It doesn't put that guilt away to bed.
Yeah. It just ties it up and lets it simmer.
Yeah. Yep.
Like a pot on a stove.
Yeah.
Ready to blow.
But what I was going to say is like very quickly, I think, is the bottom of the ocean room. Because Bob's spending a lot more time with the kids at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, and because she goes somewhere. I don't remember.
The
where
museum, the baseball World Series Hall of Fame museum. By the way, I found this out recently. You know why it's called the World Series?
Why?
Like it's obviously because like it's just like an American baseball like tournament. It's because at one point it was sponsored by like the New York World newspaper or whatever.
Oh,
That's interesting.
I had no
Interesting.
idea about that.
Fun facts with
Yeah.
Stuart.
I just found that out very recently. Anyway, so
Stuart's Newart's.
Okay. Anyways,
I don't know.
yeah. So they, they like decorate the room. Oh, well, first there's the painting. I feel like we got to talk about
Yes.
Lou's painting.
Oh yeah.
his really bad painting.
Yeah, I like that every single woman that Lou draws looks exactly the same.
Yes.
Like they all look like Cher.
Though you know what? I do kind of love representation of people having passions that they're bad at.
Yes.
I kind of love
Yes.
that. And that he acknowledges it. It's not like this bit where the thing that's funny is that like he thinks he's good. He's like, oh yeah, I know I suck. I just
but I enjoy
love
doing
to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it.
Like you don't have to be a good artist to enjoy art. You
No.
have to be a good musician to enjoy music.
No, I kind of loved that. I thought that was really fun.
I like that too.
Yeah.
This is just a very honest movie about like, you know, these imperfections in life that make life good.
Yeah.
We have to accept them with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think roughly around this time, intercut with, you know, Lou getting closer to her and Katie, who Katie doesn't really have a lot to do story-wise until the end, but she is around for all of this.
And she's
it's just
fucking
like
funny.
she's just like comic relief, and she's Charlotte's like hype woman.
Yeah. And one thing too that they established like really early in the movie is that like one thing that brings Cher and Winona together is that they both love Katie like so
Yes.
much. They both think this kid is like
Special.
so great. They think she's so amazing. Because like the first shot is really her.
Is her
like,
swimming.
Is her swimming.
Yeah.
And like the voiceover like talking about
Everybody loves my
everybody
sister.
loves my sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like including me. Like
Yeah.
I think she's like so great. So she's kind of like just in the background being like cute and funny and like kind of quirky.
Having her rock collection.
Yeah. Or she's trying to practice breathing underwater, which she was really good.
Which is very important
Yes.
for the end of the movie.
Yes.
Is that
I
she's-
didn't think it was going to be.
Yeah.
and
but
then
it
turned out to be.
was.
It's like
Yeah.
it's actually a major plot point that throughout the movie in the background she's frequently like trying to increase her underwater breathing
Yes.
ability.
yes.
Smart girl. She
I
knew.
also I also remember the glory days when you were a kid and it's like you could just wake up one day and be like, today I will work on my rock collection. And that will be
I know. Yes,
that is today. That is what I do. And like you would end the day with like 4 rocks
Yeah.
that have been cleaned up and you're like, I'm very proud of the work I've done today. This was a day of great accomplishment.
I wish, yeah.
Yeah.
I will
love
go
it.
to sleep and not have any worries and anxieties keep
Nowadays,
me awake.
wake up, do my laundry, clean the tub, maybe watch a movie, have to work on some finance stuff. And I'm like, damn, I didn't get enough done today. And as a
So
kid, you're just
sad.
like, rock 4 and you're good.
You know what? You should have one day where you really just do that. I would recommend it.
I'm going to have a rock collection day.
Like in October, me and Beth had not a rock collecting day, but a leaf collecting day. Like we just hung out and we walked around and we collected like the most perfect leaves. And then later we preserved them with beeswax. But that
That's
was
incredible.
And
That's
like,
awesome.
honestly, I did feel like, wow.
We accomplished something.
We really
today.
accomplished something today. It was really nice and sweet. So
Kids are onto something.
they're onto something. Yeah.
I've been building, like, whenever I get stressed at work, I build Legos when I get home. And, like, that's like the ultimate stress relief. I
love
find it
that.
so rewarding.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because you get like a physical representation of the work you've been putting into it
Yeah.
at the end that you can just look at and be like, yeah, that was like a few days worth of work that I
Yeah.
put in. And now I just have this to enjoy.
Yeah. And you just have it to enjoy. It's just for you. Just
Anyway, Lou's version of this is nightmarish paintings of Cher.
yes.
He's like, yeah, it looks just like you, doesn't it? No. So
But yeah, and there's a lot of business showing like Bob getting closer to
Yes.
the kids. He goes to the swim meets for Katie. And then the biggest scene that we get is where he helps build like the ocean room.
Yeah.
they build they paint and build like an underwater themed bedroom.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
his house.
In his
apartment.
house.
He makes like a bedroom for the kids in his apartment.
Right.
Yes. It's in his house.
Yes.
Yes.
And while Charlotte and Katie love it, like it's kind of like the quote unquote mermaid scene is that they're underwater. Aside from Cher's mermaid dress later.
Yeah.
Cher
Cher's
is
upset about
not happy about it 'cause
Yeah.
she feels like he's trying to move in on her kids and like use the kids' love for him to pressure her into marriage or into marrying him or being with him permanently.
Yeah.
And there's merit to what she's saying, but also he is just trying to just try and show affection to these kids who deserve it.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything wrong, but you can understand Cher's mindset here.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what makes it interesting is
Yeah.
that there's not like a
There's no bad guy.
There's no bad guy. But they have something I love in that confrontation is when he says something about like you don't care or it doesn't seem like you don't show that you care about us. And he's talking about her and him.
Yeah.
And then she goes, it's, you and the girls are not, an us. Like me and the girls are an us.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's you and then me and the girls. And he's like, I wasn't talking about that.
Yeah.
So I think she also has this thing of like, I wonder if she has this thing of like, I also don't want like me to be outside of this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's me and the girls don't like.
Yeah. And like she's been alone with her girls for so long.
Yeah.
That the concept of someone else entering that like structure,
Yes.
she's terrified because like she already has
Yes.
such a like a tenuous grip
Yes.
on her family as it is.
Yes.
What does adding another figure to that?
Yes.
How does that unstable
Yes.
or destabilize what we
Yes.
have?
And the movie's conscientious about these points.
Yes.
Yes.
Like
totally.
it's not an accident. All these parallels it's drawing, it's part of the reason why the movie is as smart as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Around the same time, Charlotte does go to the gynecologist.
Yes.
She registers under the name Joan Arc.
Yeah, she does.
That was fantastic.
That was so good.
That was
so funny.
fucking tastic.
That was so good.
I recently learned that Joan of Arc was only 19 when she died, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I knew she was young, but I had no idea she was like 17 and
Yeah,
leading armies.
She was really young. She
in
was really young.
France.
I have a lot of feelings on Joan of Arc.
Burned at the stake. Yep.
Crazy thing that happened.
Yes. Yes.
History be wild and sometimes.
Yes, it does. It's true.
But no, she's brought into the room and she's so nervous, and the narration's like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna find out I'm pregnant. How am I gonna tell her? I'm gonna be known as the town tramp." The doctor's like, "You know what sex is, right?"
She's like, yeah.
And he's like, "You have to have had it to have a kid because you're still a virgin." She's like, "Oh." And then she walks out so embarrassed out of the gynecologist office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she almost like, it's this fun, internalization that Winona plays really well of she's simultaneously like relieved that she's not pregnant, but also kind of disappointed because she'd built up this version where she's pregnant in her head so much that when it gets taken away from her, she's like, "Oh fuck! Well, I was like ready for that. I was like built my system, what I was going to do. This really fucks up my plan."
And she gets a little bit more like, I don't know, I guess like also liberated too. Because when we're going to get pretty closer to the third bell tower scene that we'll talk about soon.
I like the idea of, because I feel like we all do have these moments in our lives sometimes where you think something bad is going to happen to you. And you get really locked into that being the future.
Yes.
And then it doesn't happen.
Yes.
And you should be relieved. And, for the most part you are. But part of you is like, well,
Now what?
I was like ready for that bad thing to happen.
Yes.
And it didn't. Yeah.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. You like exactly.
Yes.
As someone who's recently been going through like a lot of medical procedures and whatnot, like I've run into this a lot where I was like, oh, well, I'm relieved that that's not the case. But at the same time, I was like, I was so ready for that.
Yeah. It feels weird then.
It feels really weird now. And I'm like, I don't want to say it's a sense of disappointment because
No, that's weird to say, but I don't know what the other word is.
It kind of
for
is
it.
like this weird sense of disappointment.
Yeah. Because I have like I don't need to get into my own personal stuff, but like my mother has the BRCA gene, which is like a genetic like breast cancer and ovarian cancer double combo kind of thing that's like passed down. And my whole life, my great grandmother had it, my grandmother had it, and my mother had it. So I always just assumed my whole life I must have it. It was like the thing I was prepared for my whole life that like, I'm sure I have the BRCA gene. And I got tested and I didn't have it. And obviously mostly I was relieved, but it was like, I don't know a word for it, Jeff, because it's not disappointment. That would be like really weird to say, but it feels akin to it because you're like really ready for this like
terrible thing.
It's the
You're
startling.
so ready for bad news.
Yeah.
It's startling.
Yeah, it's very startling. And it like you have to sort of like readjust your like whole you were like so prepared for this thing and all of a sudden you have to completely readjust.
Yeah.
Like you're like ready for this bad thing and then you're like,
It's like whiplash a little bit.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I need to reevaluate the next like year of my life now.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. Yeah. And for Winona, she thought that, it's immaculate conception.
Yeah.
And
she's like, damn,
Was it?
I'm not birthing the next Jesus.
Yeah.
She's like, dang.
So
Sad.
yes. How much do we have before we have the New Year's?
I think that's the next thing.
The next thing, the New Year's Eve. The New Year's Eve costume party, which I was thinking, like, what a fun idea.
That is a good one.
That's a fun idea.
I've never thought of that before.
I've never thought of that before either. I was like, that's kind of cute.
How did we all spend the stroke of midnight this New Year's? Real quick sidebar. What did we do at like in the minute before and after?
I was at Dorothy with Beth and Cassie, and we drank champagne, and then I kissed Beth on the lips, and then Cassie kissed me on the cheek, and then I kissed Cassie on the cheek, and that was it.
Stuart?
I spent it with Savannah and their respective partners, my respective partner.
Yeah. I was cooking lasagna while Becca, my wife, was in the bathroom as midnight hit and 2024 was welcomed in, and you heard fireworks outside, and I was just cutting up some lasagna, and I was like, shit, I missed it. And I was like, and then she came out of the bathroom, and I was like, oh, I guess we can kiss now. It was like kind of like, fuck, I really fucked this one up.
Yeah.
But every year, and this is a sidebar, I every year find myself surprised about how effective I find New Year's to be. Like, everyone like, it's just the next day. Like, it's just January 1st. This essentially, there's no difference. But mentally, I don't know why. The second the clock hits midnight, I literally feel actual stress off my shoulders. Like, my body feels more lean. I'm just like, we did it. We finished a year.
The propaganda's gotten to you.
It really worked. It really works on me. And I feel the best I've ever felt in the minutes after the New Year's happens.
Charlie, are you
That's
also a anti-New Year resolution
I'm not
comrade?
into I'm not into New Year's resolutions.
I'm the same way.
I'm not a New Year's resolution person, but it does just feel nice to be like, the year's over, and just like that's a clean slate now, and just like whatever happens, it's this year.
I say I'm an anti-New Year's resolution kind of guy, but at the same time, I respect the people who are.
I agree.
Because there's something about like this year that for the next 365 days, starting today, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try not to do this or X, Y, and Z. And like, I have to put this barrier, not barrier is not the right word, but like, I have to put this like mental grid in my head that somehow like my human brain can recognize as like, I have this stretch of time to do something different.
Yes.
Whereas like the anti-New Year's resolution gang, you know, it's an easier side to be on. Because for us, it's like, it's just another day.
Yeah.
If you want to change something in your life, just do it on a fucking Tuesday.
Well, that's
July 2nd.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. I have, though I am like generally I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel like I'm generally anti just because what I don't like, any person who can do it, I love. What I get worried about is people putting all of this pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like. But I have had New Year's resolutions that I have, like in 2020, my New Year's resolution was to make sure that I'd like kind of gotten off of reading consistently. And my New Year's resolution was to make sure I read every single day, even if that was a page. And I've done that since 2020. Like I've at least read a page every single day.
That's great.
So, I mean, I guess there are like things, but my New Year's resolution was, I did have one, but it's very broad. I said I wanted to take better care of myself, my home, and Beth, who's my fiance.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So I set, that was like a specific goal, but I usually just am like, I guess more like I set like intentions for the year. I'm like, these are like.
My favorite resolutions are, I'm going to continue doing this.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like, you know, like last year I had a really good time doing this. This year I want to keep doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think
that's
that's
like
also,
to me, I don't have resolutions, but I just do start it. I'm just like, this is the year where I can do whatever I want. And like my resolution is like, just, I'm free. Just like nothing matters. Yeah. Whatever I do this year, I can do it.
Yeah.
I've been getting to that vibe a lot more with birthdays too.
Yeah.
Like birthdays, it's like, why is it you have to get something done before you reach a rotation around the sun?
Yeah.
Like I'm in my 28th rotation around the sun now, and I'll be in my 29th come November. And it's like, oh, because I didn't do this by my 30th rotation, you know?
Yeah.
I did something wrong. And it's like,
You did.
Doesn't matter.
it's
No.
like it doesn't matter, you know?
No.
And I feel like that's another thing people put pressure on themselves in
Yeah.
a broader sense of like, I got to get this done by the time I'm 25, this done by the time I'm 30.
Yeah. Not
You know?
into that.
Not into that.
We don't.
you know?
We do not stand.
No.
People survive on the earth in an unknown amount of rotations.
Yep.
So don't think about your rotations.
No.
Think about the rock you're on.
It's not about the. I forgot what I was gonna say.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to the New Year's birthday corner
Yeah, I'm
New Year's
sorry.
with Charlie, Jeff,
No,
and
this was
Stuart.
good. No, this was good.
Back to the movie.
Back to
So
the actual.
they're at a New Year's Eve party. It is weird because like Bob Hoskins and Cher have that big fight.
Yeah.
And then the next scene is just like they're dressed like pirates. at the
Yeah,
New-
there's a clearly a time jump, but we don't know. Like I think
Yeah.
so.
'Cause
Right?
it's like sea themed.
yeah.
because,
oh
like,
yeah, I guess yes, it must
Cher's
be.
dressed like a mermaid.
Yes.
Hoskins
and-
is a pirate.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm Black Betty, and I'm
Shmee.
So after midnight, they kiss. Oh wait, no, they don't. They do.
They do, but it's
They
like kind of
do.
like they don't like
Yeah.
have like this like passionate kiss.
He
It's
he
kind of-
asks her to marry and move in with him,
Oh, yeah, and she's like,
and she says no
it's gonna be a no for me, dog.
because you're still legally married to your wife.
Fair.
And
Fair,
also-
fair,
Yeah,
fair,
and also
fair.
I don't need you in our family. I'm happy to have you now, but then we'll move on one day. It's like kind of brutal. but,
Yeah, that's that,
at
yeah.
least they're honest.
From where she comes from, it's an honest answer,
Yeah,
though.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. That's how she feels.
You know,
But Cher's car doesn't start after the party, so she rides home with Joe, who drops her off at the house. At this point, Charlotte comes to the window and sees Joe pull up with her mom, and then sees her mom get out and make out with Joe. And
Is
she's
it a
like,
full
"What
makeout?
the fuck?"
is it a full makeout? I thought it was.
It's a pretty. It's
It's in between, I would say, a makeout.
Yeah.
and
yeah.
just
It's
a
it's
little-
like
a-
more.
It's, a
It's
passionate
more than
kiss.
a kiss.
It's a more passionate kiss than she had with Lou
Yeah.
at midnight.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I'll say that, but I don't know if I'd call it a makeout.
And yeah, you're right, Jeff. Like Winona gets super.
Yeah, she
Pissed.
storms
Yeah.
out and starts yelling at her mom, who's really drunk. And it's just like, who cares? It
was
doesn't
just a
matter. Just
kiss.
a kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's New Year's. It's just a kiss. Yeah.
Joe doesn't say anything. I don't think. I think he just.
Joe's
She
just
yells.
like,
But Winona yells at Joe. She's like, she'll kiss anybody. She doesn't care about you. You're not special. That's what she says to
right.
him. While he like drives away.
yeah.
She's like yelling at them. At
Joe
him while
does
she's
like
driving.
Matthew
exactly.
McConaughey crying in the truck driving away.
Exactly. Wait, can I go backwards really
Yes.
fast?
Sure. Always.
There's a scene adjacent to the New Year's party where Katie and Charlotte are sitting outside, and Charlotte tells Katie about New Year's resolutions. What do they set New Year's resolutions in that scene? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like outside on the bench with the little like red blanket.
My memory is not.
That's fine. I was just like, did they set New Year's resolutions? I was thinking about it while we were talking about New Year's resolutions.
The one scene I'm thinking about that we might have missed was Katie.
In the new year, I will be more faithful to you, Lord, and I will get so much dick.
I think maybe Katie just says that like she wants to just keep swimming or something.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's right.
Go
right,
along
something
with
like that.
Continuing what you love. Well,
yeah.
But the one scene I'm thinking about we might have missed was I think it was a dinner scene with Katie, Charlotte, Lou, and Cher, where Katie says like, you know, why don't we have Lou live with us, or why don't we live?
That's
with
right
Lou?
before the fight because it's
Yeah.
the that's the same scene. That's the bedroom,
Yeah,
and then because she was like not, and then Cher comes to the house and they've made dinner. Like remember, Charlotte makes
yes.
dinner and she's like, "Where the hell did you learn to cook?" And she's like,
Yes.
"Home ec," and
Yeah.
that's that scene. And then after that, actually the dinner scene is then, and so that's good that you brought that up because that's actually what ignites then the
yeah,
fight
right.
with Cher and Lou.
Yeah, yeah.
What's her name in the movie?
Mrs. Flax.
Do we ever get
Rachel.
her first name?
Rachel.
Okay.
But we're
I don't think we
calling-
ever hear Rachel though.
I think they maybe say it once. I think Bob Hoskins might say it once. So a few days later, Mrs. Flax is out of the house for a nondescript reason. She's at work or something. And Charlotte decides that she's just gonna like go full Mrs. Flax mode. And puts on her mom's outfits and does her hair like her mom and starts drinking wine like her mom.
And she
Has a cigarette dangling.
And Katie, who's also there, she's like, "Can I have some?" It's like, "You can have a little." And we see Christina Ricci,
Such a good
Oscar-worthy performance.
That was so fucking good.
Just grab the growler and just like chugging it back.
Yeah.
Like
She's
just
knocking back glasses
was
before
so
Charlotte's able to
good.
turn around and notice.
Yes, that was really, really good.
And she doesn't even do like the common little kid drinks alcohol and coughs up. Like, no,
No,
she
she
downs
just
it
downs
like
it.
a fucking champion.
Yeah.
Like she's
Like
like,
it's grape juice.
it's
Yeah.
great.
Because it
Yeah.
kind of is.
Yeah.
So Charlotte is a little drunk. Katie is very
Yes.
drunk.
Yes.
And they
go
decide to
outside.
walk up to the convent.
Yes.
And then Charlotte says she's going to go up to the top of the bell tower. Katie doesn't have much interest. And he's like, well, Katie, get home safe. And so Katie kind of just starts wandering off, and she's playing
Looking
on
for
the,
rocks.
She's looking for rocks on the ledge of the waterfall. Normal place to do it.
With us knowing that she's drunk.
Yes.
So like you guys were probably also there. I was also there, and all the audience was probably there. Of like, oh, she's gonna fall in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's dead.
And did you think it was gonna be like fall in dead or
I
like
thought she was going to die.
I thought she was gonna die.
instantaneous?
I totally thought.
Well,
she
I
was gonna
thought
die.
that she
Bridget
would drown.
Terabithia style, die.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And so Charlotte goes to the top of the bell tower and finds Joe there.
And they have sex.
Yeah, and they have sex. She loses her virginity to Joe,
And she
in
is
the convent
rightfully
bell tower.
punished for it.
Yeah. And I said to Becca, I was just like, wild first losing your virginity story in a convent bell tower with a guy while your sister drowns
While
to
your
death
sister drowns.
in a water creek right below you.
Have you guys? I'm sure you didn't. Did either of you watch The Secret Life of an American Teenager?
No.
No.
Or do you know anything about it?
Not really.
Okay. I would like to bring up one thing that this really reminded me of, and I was very scared we were going to go there, but we didn't really. One of the characters in that TV show is it's all about teenagers having sex. Like that's really the whole premise. The main character gets pregnant at band camp, and then the whole show is about teenagers having sex. But one of the girls is very Christian, and I'm going to save myself, whatever. And she has sex, and then her dad dies in a plane crash like the same day. And she is like, the reason my father died is because I had sex. And I was really scared that that's where we were going to go in
With this movie.
That's
Yes.
where I thought so too. Like the
Yes.
religious trauma she's about to experience
yes,
here.
I was like, oh no. But yeah, so her and Joe do the deed.
they do the deed.
They do the deed.
Sorry, the wrong button. I'm trying to hit the.
It was like
Hi, Stuart.
they do the deed, and
They only get about halfway through before all these nuns start running. I'd be like, oh my God!
yeah,
There's a child in the water.
yeah. And at what point does Cher come home and realize they're not there? Like, what's the
So the
timeline of
chronology
that?
is like we're intercut between the sex and Christina Ricci's face underwater, drowning.
Very.
And then Charlotte is like hears all the nuns screaming, and she gets up and sees all the nuns running towards the water, and immediately clocks what has just happened. And she runs down, is like, "Oh my God, Katie, no!" Joe gets an ambulance, and Charlotte rides with Katie to the hospital in the ambulance.
and it cuts to the waiting room.
Yeah, she's in the waiting room. She hasn't gotten any news yet, and that's when Cher shows up.
Oh yes,
And just walks down. She's being escorted by like a friend. And Cher basically ignores. She just looks at Charlotte and then goes in the room for Katie. While Joe takes Charlotte home.
And still at this point, it's like the movie hasn't quite answered the question of like, is she alive? Is she dead? Because I'm sitting back and like, I don't know for sure either.
yeah, I didn't know.
For me, it was like she was underwater for a long time. She didn't die instantaneously. Like
Yeah.
she didn't like fall in, hit her head and drown. She like fell in and couldn't get her head above water and drowned. I'm doing quotations. So for me, it's like, okay, so she's either dead or she's still alive but not doing well. And it wasn't until like later when the movie like finally kind of answers that, where she's in a coma.
Yeah.
Charlotte visits her and is just like praying that she'll wake up.
Yeah.
Had no idea where the movie was going to go at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
I really-
there's
Yeah,
a million options for how this movie can end.
and I'm really glad it
Yeah.
took that went the direction that
I
it
kind
did.
of clocked. I was like, I'm pretty sure Katie won't be dead because they had all that emphasis on her, like learning how to breathe underwater earlier,
Yeah.
and I was like, that this feels like the logical payoff to that is that she survives. But like the tension of, I think like the real drama of the movie is not Katie's death. It's what Katie's near death does to Charlotte and her mom's relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Cher does come home to get clothes. Bob Hoskins calls and warns Charlotte that she's coming. He's like, she's okay. She's going to be fine. But your mom's coming back. Yeah. And
the door opens and Cher walks in.
Yeah. And it's, I can't remember how it starts, but it's like immediately brutal.
Yeah, that's a good scene.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of, I've been thinking about this since you brought this up, Stuart. I think she actually, they fight, but I think she does kind of do the thing where she's like, I'm so mad at you, I can't even talk to you. And that's when Winona, when she's like leaving, remember? And like Winona's like, I know that I messed up. Like, I get it. I know that I messed up. I feel terrible, but like, you can't just ignore me. Doesn't she say like, I'm not invisible? We have to have a conversation. We have to talk about it. Like, I'm not invisible. Like, you have to talk to me about it.
Yeah. We never talk to each other. We have to have this conversation now because this is the last chance.
Yeah.
And it escalates.
It escalates.
Then I can't remember like all the jabs that are being thrown, but essentially it's like, I can't believe you were so stupid and leaving your sister, and like, what are people gonna think? And she says like, I know I made a mistake. And she says like, but you can't just keep running away from these problems like you always do. And it's like, and essentially something happens, and Cher says like, people are going to think you're a tramp or something. Yeah. And she says, it's like, well, they already think about that about you.
Yeah.
And Cher slaps her.
Yeah. She's the town, like, they'll think you're the town tramp or something. And she's like, the town already has one.
Yeah. That's
honestly
the line.
Good clap back.
Good clap back. Yeah. And immediate hard smack in the face.
Yeah.
But Charlotte just kind of sits down to cry, and Cher's getting ready to leave, and she just pauses and like takes a breath. And this really does feel like an authentic way that these things end.
Yeah.
Is like, it just gets to a point where there's no more screaming to be had. So, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what can I say to you?
Yeah.
What can you say?
Yeah.
What does this?
Yeah.
And Cher kind of, finally accepts her role in this family and comes back and talks to Charlotte rather than running away from her kid's problems, just being like, oh, you can figure it out. She finally is like, I have to be the mom now. I have to be a mom.
There's another,
not just their friend.
There's another thing too that I feel like is important, is that Cher is like trying to make her pack up to go.
Yeah.
She's like, we're leaving.
Yeah.
Because that's why she's like, they'll think you're the town tramp. Like, we can't stay here.
Yeah.
And Charlotte like refuses. She's like, I
want to graduate high school.
I want to graduate high school. I want to stay.
Yeah.
And she does. That's kind of like they agree.
Yeah, that's the reconciling moment.
Right. It's
where
like,
it's like,
okay,
can we give it 1 year?
Yeah. And
please.
she's like, okay.
And then she also asks, it's like, my dad's really never coming back, is he? She's like, no.
No, there's no chance.
No chance.
She's like, has my dad ever even seen me? And she's like, when you were 4, he wanted a formal divorce. So he saw you then. Yeah. And it just kind of is crippling to Winona, because she's always like, had these she's never had a real father figure, and so she kind of filled the hole with like Jesus and these visions of her father that she believed to be. And I guess the movie's like kind of like JFK. It was supposed to be a father figure to her, but it never really like develops on that one.
Well, and she also asks, it's like, what was my father like? And she says, for the 2 minutes I knew him, he was very charming.
Yeah. Just that he was nothing special.
Yeah.
He's your father, and that's all he is. No more, no less.
Yeah. Great scene.
But Charlotte does.
So good.
It's
and
incredible scene.
The acting in both of them just kill it in that scene. It's
and
so
I
good.
think, going back to the beginning, like Cher taking like authorship over this movie really elevates a sequence like this, because this really feels like Cher and Winona put the work and the time into not only acting the scene, but making sure it felt authentic.
Yeah.
In their blocking, in their performance, in the writing of it.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't go with a typical Hollywood, shouting match. This has, its own arc. It's like a 3-act thing in and of itself.
Which is what would have happened if it was truly directed by a guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think.
I agree.
In a male sense of like, okay, how does a daughter and a mother argue? It's like, well, they just I'm
just yell at each other.
using their terminology, but it's like they would just bitch at each other.
Totally.
Hands would be thrown and like hair would be pulled, and
Yes.
that's it. That's how a
Yes.
man would think about a
And
mother-daughter.
Yes, and that's why I was so surprised when I saw it was a male director. But then Jeff saying that it was really Cher's movie, that really makes it make sense.
It makes
to me.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they agree to stay in the town for one more year.
Yes.
But that's when basically like we start wrapping the movie up at that point.
Yeah. Katie wakes up.
Katie
and
wakes
she's
up.
fine.
And she has a little bit of a hearing issue in her like left ear, I think.
Something like that.
Something like
Well, it followed up by a great joke.
Yeah.
Because like they're on the porch and Cher pulls up in a car, and I think she asks, it's like, what's that? Did mom say she was making a main course?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then she gets out and they're like, no.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Followed up a really good joke. Bob Hoskins is still like involved in the family, but it's not like, it doesn't tie it up with the whole like they get married and he moves in Bo.
No.
It's more like he's just involved with the family still.
Yeah, and I think that was actually a very smart
Yeah.
way to do it, because it was like, you know, Cher's worries were not like unfounded, and it's
Right.
not like crazy for her to just like not want to marry this guy that she's not been with for that long. But like the real issue was like her ability to open up emotionally, right?
Yeah.
And like let him in
Yeah.
emotionally. And I think like that's the resolution you get, is that like she's more open
Yeah.
to him and his involvement in her life and his involvement with the kids.
Which
But-
I credit to Cher, because in a male directed movie, it's like cut to wedding scene.
Yes,
you know?
totally,
Right?
totally.
Like we
Yes,
see that in almost
100%.
every single Hollywood movie. It's like
100%.
in the following resolution voiceover narration, it's like, and then Mrs. Flaxman, Lou got married,
Yes.
and then he moved in with us. Like, but it doesn't do that.
No.
And
Yeah.
so again, more authenticity.
I love the idea that like they keep Lou in the picture and like he's like kind of becoming their surrogate father, but he's not part of the family yet.
yes.
Yeah.
And we get to end this movie. I mean, I do want to say she decides I transitioned from Catholicism to Greek mythology. As my new obsession.
It's like, I'm really into Greek, and then
Just reading the tragedy of Icarus, which I think is great.
and it's the same bit from the very beginning of the movie when Cher walks in. It's like, we're not Greek.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what's like the final like image of the movie?
It's the dance scene. Isn't
Oh, it's the
it?
dance
And
scene.
they're dancing, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know what the last like frame is, or the last image, but right,
Yeah.
aren't they dancing in the kitchen?
Yeah, they're dancing in the kitchen, and they listen to "Happy for the Rest of Your Life," which is a great song.
Great song, and I loved
Very
that scene.
funny enough, I watched The Fabelmans, the Spielberg movie last week, which also uses the song, and then this movie uses the song. And this is the only two times I've ever heard this song. And
Wow,
it was just
interesting.
And I watched them both in the same week.
That's interesting.
But yeah, the three of them just dance to the song, and it's just a sustained shot from like the kitchen door of the three of them just having a great time as they make dinner together, and they're actually cooking like a real dinner instead of just hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah.
And it seems like the family has really repaired itself, and I think it's just a lovely fucking ending.
Yeah.
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 It's so charming, it's so heartening,
Yeah.
and it just
And it feels well earned.
yes.
Yeah.
The movie put the work into earning a happy ending.
Yeah. Yes.
And I was just very, very joyed.
Yeah.
Very happy.
Yeah. I was a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the end
That's
of
the
Mermaids.
end of Mermaids.
No actual mermaids involved were hurt
No.
in the making of this production.
No.
Yeah.
What do we think? I mean, we kind of already said what we thought, but what do we think after Mermaids? Like, what do we think is special about this that we haven't already said?
That we haven't already said. I think that it is I mean, obviously there are a lot of movies about, mothers and daughters. And there's a lot of movies about, like teenager, coming of age, all of those things. But I think that it flips some tropes, and it also just is very, just feels very genuine and real. And so it has that, both of those things kind of working with it
Yeah.
I think. This, both, let's flip some tropes on its head, but also, let's delve deep into some of these,
Yeah.
these tropes that have been done, but that, let's just, be really
we
real
can
and
still
genuine
do
with
them,
it.
but we just have to be honest about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some tropes are real. They're things that happen.
There are things that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought it was a really special movie.
Much like Lou, it's never afraid to shy away from honesty.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I really loved it. I thought it was great.
I really liked it as well.
I really liked it too. The movie smartly navigates a lot of themes and a lot of threads, but in a way where it doesn't leave out deeper pieces.
Totally.
I'd say like besides like the JFK bit, like every theme that the movie tries to explore reaches a nice, like deep, fulfilling level. And that's really hard to do for a movie that has as many themes as this one does. You know,
Yeah.
Jeff, you say this a lot, and I think it's kind of like become your motto on the show that a movie is about a lot of things.
Yeah. Movies are about a lot of things. Movies are not about one thing.
Yeah. And this movie is about
Such is life.
This
Yeah.
movie is about a lot of things.
Yes.
And like a simpler mind would just like, you can narrow it down and be like, oh, it's about a mom and a mom and a daughter repairing the relationship. But like, it's about religious trauma. It's
Yeah.
about like coming of age, sexuality, being an older sister, being a younger sister, being a mom. Like, what's it like
Yeah.
to be a male moving into that
Yeah.
kind of family? Like, so many of those things.
You can never just say, you can always say, like, the movie is about this, because, yeah, of course you can.
In a plot
But,
sense.
Yeah. Or, like, but, like, you can say, like, this movie is about a mother and a daughter, because that is correct. But there's not just about that. It's about so many
there's
things.
much.
And where
And some movies sink better, and some movies swim with that idea. Some movies, like, have and give equal time and, like, try and really pay, some service to all of the things.
And where the B and C tier movies move up to A and S tier is where they're able to treat every theme with enough grace that feels fulfilling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's one of the rare movies that does that
Yeah,
very well.
absolutely. I would say too, to add to that, I think it takes being a teenage girl very seriously.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that. Because I think a lot of movies of that time, or even now, that are centered on some similar themes, kind of make being a teenage girl the butt of the joke.
Yes.
And I think that though it is very funny and there are some very funny bits in the movie, it takes being a teenage girl and all that
Charlie,
that comes with very,
You know
very
a movie that came
seriously.
out this year?
Oh,
Um,
never mind. No, I was going to draw another movie parallel, but you go first.
that you and I saw is Are You There, God? It's from Margaret.
I love Are You There,
A
God? It's me,
very
Margaret.
similar movie to this in
Yes.
a lot of respects.
Oh,
that just
so
that
good.
takes this stuff seriously.
Yeah.
Isn't afraid to have like some contradictory and difficult relationships.
Yeah.
But overall, it's just kind of a joyous movie at the end.
Totally. Yes.
I think that's a movie that's very much in conversation with this.
Yes, I really agree.
I was going to say, Charlie, have you seen Now and Then?
No.
Another Christina Ricci
Another Christina Ricci movie.
Okay.
That's
with Brendan Fraser in one scene.
Brendan Fraser in one scene.
Okay.
Good scene. And we sort of even self-described it. I don't know if it's a fair or good characterization of it, but to kind of really dumb it down to one thing, it's Stand By Me for Girls.
Okay.
In a way, though, that like does, I think, treat it with respect. That falls into, like, in my opinion, like somewhat of a B tier, only because there are certain themes and threads it introduces that doesn't fully like give the honest, deep, fulfilling fleshing out.
Yeah.
But like I will say in one example, like Christina Ricci's character, her in that movie, small spoiler, like her mom passes away, like, off screen, like into the beginning of the movie, she has a mother who passed away. And that's the thing that really like kind of digs into that and brings it fully out. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just throwing that in there of like, as in like a movie that introduces something like that, treats it with the respect and has like a nice fulfilling ending of that.
I'll check it out.
And it's Christina Ricci. And it's got Brendan
Yeah.
Fraser.
Do you want to know what the
Nice.
thing about that movie is?
What?
Stuart's gonna roll his eyes when I say this, but the thing about that movie is like it's set over 2 different time periods, and Christina Ricci is the young version of this character, and the grown-up version of this character is Rosie O'Donnell, who puts
Wow.
no effort into like trying to be like Christina. She's still like fine in the movie, but it's basically like Christina Ricci's this young kid. It's like, yeah, it's me. I'm Christina Ricci. I'm kind of depressed. And then it's like cut to the modern day. It's Rosie O'Donnell. She walks in. She's like, hey, how the fuck you doing? It's me. It's Rosie O'Donnell. How you doing? All right. So what do we got over here? We got some enjoyers. We got some carrots. Some carrots. All right. Anyone eat some carrots? All right. Just from the Bronx or something. And it's like every scene has that energy. Every scene has that energy, and it's so funny. Just how much you're just like, there's no connection between these two.
That's wow. What a crazy casting decision. Okay. Fascinating.
But yeah, that's what I got. Very much love this movie.
Yeah.
Comes out. It's like a modest success. Gets like pretty good reviews.
That makes sense.
Winona does get a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Golden Globes.
Wow. Good for her. That's awesome.
Yeah. But this movie, even though it was successful for her, this is kind of she comes out of this movie like, I don't want to play this character anymore. She said, I've said my piece. I said this at the beginning a little bit. But she's like, I've said my piece with like kind of the alienated outsider teenager. This, I think, is the last I can do. I'm going to tell my agents I don't want to get any more of these roles, and I only want to be in adult stuff from here on out. And I think it's
a big
really,
swing.
it's a big swing. But I think the gratification she gets out of this role, like the good notices that she gets from critics and awards, it does help her in that effort. It's like, all right, she has not been half-assing this stuff. And it's time, like, if she really doesn't want to be doing this anymore, it's time that we, like, pay respect to that. And so she gets that nomination. She takes 2 years off after this and Night on Earth, which we talk about next week. And then she comes back with Bram Stoker's Dracula. And it's off to the races for her. She's getting an Oscar nomination in basically a year and a half from that point.
That's my girl.
We're very happy to be talking about her, especially at this stage in her career.
Jeff just turned the lights on with his phone.
What the fuck?
I did.
It was getting pretty dark.
It was getting pretty dark.
It was getting really dark, but
I was hoping
like,
to do it
what?
without having to address it, but
Sorry.
no, that's fine.
I was startled.
It was a little startling.
Yeah.
Stuart, you want to see something funny?
Always.
Whoa.
There's,
I made the light red.
Is that funny?
It was a little
Was
funny.
that funny?
you have a smart bulb.
I do have a smart bulb.
You know, it's amazing how like that is like not really wowing to us, but if you bring somebody from like 1940 into
They would
this
fucking
room,
die.
they would be
have a heart attack. They'd be
feel
like,
like
perish.
you are Satan.
I always like the idea that if you give a peasant from like 1419 a Dorito, it's more extreme nacho flavor than they'll ever experience in their life otherwise. Like, you could potentially kill them with one Dorito.
Oh my god.
Or like giving a Victorian child a Baja Blast. Sending them into the stratosphere.
Oh man,
But no, I think that's all we got. Right?
That's all I got.
that's all I got.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode covering mermaids. It's been a real pleasure talking about Winona through this career. We have through this era of her career. We have one more movie we're grandfathering into this era called Night on Earth. We'll be talking about that next week. It's a Jim Jarmusch movie. I'd recommend listening to that episode. It's going to be a good one. We'll have a fun guest on. Stuart. All right. As always, special thanks for listening. Make sure to tune in next week. Oh my God, all the lights are fucking turning on. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe whatever platform you're listening on. As a reminder, we're available on Spotify, Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, BlueSky, Threads at Travolting Pod, Reddit, Travolting Podcast. It's just r/Travolting. TravoltingPodcast@gmail.com if you have to email us anything. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney. Anyone want to plug anything?
Nope, just vibing.
No, I'm good.
All right. And then finally, special thanks, as always, to Rebecca Johnson for our graphic design and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for our theme music, which is not bringing you out right now because Stuart has some CHER going. But thank you, folks, so much. See you next week for Night on Earth. Have a good one.